Hey everybody, Ryan Grant here and welcome back to the YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to be going over, hold on a minute, you may be saying, I can't put on muscle, and I'm basically going to tell you why through 4 different things, and at the end of this video, I'm going to give you suggestions for each of those 4 different things, alright? So we're basically, I hope I knuckle down to, the problem that you're currently encountering, and hopefully at the end I can solve your problem. Okay, so without further ado, sorry, my plan's being doing its own thing, it's in its world of its own. So without further ado, let's get into this video. So the first thing that I want to go over with you guys is pretty obvious, alright? We're basically going to be going over the pillars of training, alright? So first of all, you may not necessarily be training properly, and what I mean by training properly is you may be lifting with shit form, which is, first of all awful, because we perform exercises in order to grow muscle, right? And if you can't perform them correctly, how do you think you're going to grow muscle efficiently, right? It's simply, it can work, but it won't necessarily work as effectively as you want it to be and as effectively as it can work, okay? So you've got to make sure that you're performing exercises correctly, and I'm going to get back to that, obviously, in the suggestions part of this video. You may not necessarily be consistent with your training, okay? You may be turning up when you only feel motivated. You may be turning up 2 times this week, 3 times that week, and then 1 time the next week. You don't necessarily have a flow, you don't have a consistent routine, and this is basically just going to hold you in the position where you are right now. You're not really going to make progress, you're not really going to regress, you're just going to really stay where you are, and obviously that's not what we want, because we want to progress, right? And you may not necessarily be pushing yourself, or you're staying comfortable, right? Which is not what you want, because comfort and growth are 2 things on the polar opposite ends of the scale. They do not go with each other. They absolutely hate each other. They despise each other. So you've got to learn to become content with discomfort, and that is how you grow, all right? So now swiftly moving on to number 2, which is diet, okay? Diet is a tough nut to crack, and I'll be honest, it has taken me a while to, I wouldn't say master it, because, I'm still in the pursuit of mastery, right? But it has definitely taken me a bloody long time to get to the point where I am at right now with my diet, okay? But the 2 things that I want to basically go over with you guys, and what you're probably doing wrong, is you're probably not eating enough, which is obviously bad, because if you don't eat enough, then you scientifically can't gain weight, and you can't, well, you can put on muscle. However, it will be very, very, very bloody difficult, and you're just making it a lot harder for yourself, right? And obviously the consistency, which is something that, obviously, as I just said, it's taken me a while to master. But you need to be consistent with these things, because if you don't have consistency, then you're not going to be able to achieve progress, because consistency is one of the things that bridges the gap between, obviously you right now and you gaining muscle and gaining weight really easily, right? So that's number 2. You may not necessarily be eating enough, and you may not necessarily be eating consistent enough. You may not be eating enough on a consistent basis, okay? So now swiftly moving on to number 3, which is not tracking, okay? And I cannot reiterate how important tracking multiple things is, okay? And you may be thinking tracking your lifts or tracking your calories is boring. However, it's only boring if you make it out to be boring, okay? You have control of how you see your world. So if you don't see it as boring, and you actually want to do it, and you actually enjoy seeing your lifts go up every week, and you actually enjoy seeing that you hit your calorie surplus at the end of the day, and you love that feeling, then it's not going to be boring, and you're going to have a massive, massive advantage if you actually think of it this way, okay? So you want to be tracking things like your lifts. You want to be tracking things like your calories, and tracking data like this is super, super important. And I'll give you guys an example of one of them. So tracking your lifts, right? Tracking your lifts is super, super important, because it may get to, so for example, if I was to I'm training chest today, right? And if I didn't track my lifts today and how many reps I get with what weight, then when I do it next week, I may forget what I did on what exercise, or the rest time I did between this or between that. I'm not saying you have to go that specific. However, I might end up using a lighter weight than I would today next week if I didn't track, because I may have forgot what I did. So it's super important that you're tracking, just to, you may be saying in your head, oh, I remember. It's just to make sure, okay? And, when you're with your kids or your grandkids in, 40 years time or whatever, wouldn't it be pretty cool to look back at your lifts? You know, you got it all there. You can see what you did. You know, back in my day, 40 years ago, I did 100 kilos on bench press for 8 reps. You know, just, I don't know. It was just pretty cool, right? But in the present moment, okay, tracking is super important if you want to make progression, okay? And in terms of calories, it's so easy to underestimate or overestimate how much you eat, and especially as a beginner, because it takes a bloody long time to sort of gauge how many calories would be in a meal. Like, obviously, I'm not saying that you should do this. However, over time, I've sort of developed the ability to sort of visualize how many calories would be in a meal. However, I wouldn't suggest doing that. I still track my stuff. I still track my stuff, so you should definitely track yours as well. And the final thing that I want to get onto with you guys, number 4, is recovery. Recovery is super important, and in terms of, I can't put on muscle, here's what you're doing wrong, you're probably not giving your body enough recovery, and you're probably not allowing your body to recover in the first place, and this is just going to lead to inevitable burnout. And when you recover, that's actually when your muscles grow, and I've got another video on it where I went a bit more in depth on recovery. I'll put it in the cards somewhere, or you can just find it on my channel if I forget, which I probably will. But recovery is just super important. If you don't, it's like, okay, humans sleep, right? Humans sleep every night. What would happen if we didn't sleep? Obviously, we'd probably end up, we'd end up dying if we did it to an extreme. However, um, however, if we didn't sleep in the short term, if we went 48 hours without sleep, we would be burnt out. We would not want to do anything but just lay in bed and sleep, or eat shit food, or just, just mindlessly do shit, alright? And it's the exact same thing with the gym. If you go to the gym too many days in a row without giving yourself enough rest, then you're going to burn out. It's as simple as that. Okay, so now I've hopefully identified your problem, or I've identified your situation and what you're doing wrong. Let's move on to the suggestions, aka the solutions to your problem, okay? So, back to number 1, training. 3 things that I got. Okay, so the first thing, form. Okay, as I said at the beginning of the video, we perform exercises to grow muscle, so we need to be able to perform them correctly in order to make things as efficient and as effective as possible, right? So knuckling down on your form is the number 1 priority you've got to have as a beginner. I still make sure that my form is all good before I increase the weight, and I'm still working on my form today. It's an art. It's literally an art form, and it takes a while to master and perfect. However, if you start working on it in your stage, which I wish I did, then by the time you get to my stage, you're going to be twice as big as me. Trust me. Form over everything, and I'm telling you that. Just please listen to me, okay? Drop the weight, drop your little ego. If you're lifting heavy, to impress the girl in the corner, or just to look good in the gym, but your form is looking shit, then the only thing that you're going to be growing is your ego, and that is very dangerous for life in general, okay? You want to be growing your muscles, not your ego. So form is your priority, okay? So the second thing I want to go into is building up the consistency. So instead of just straight away going to the gym 5 times a week, strict routine, all of that good stuff, you just gone straight into the deep end. Work your way slowly into the deep end. Go to the gym 2 to 3 times a week at first. Don't necessarily be doing intense workouts. When you first get into the gym, slowly build it up, okay? Because that is how you truly build consistency. And the third thing is very simple, but just fucking push yourself, alright? Don't stay at the same weight, don't stay at the same reps, don't stay comfortable. Do you want to leave the session at the end, feeling regret that you didn't push yourself, or you didn't do that last rep on chest press, for example? Of course you don't, because that'll make you feel like a pussy, okay? And you want to be better than last week, right? Because that's the whole nature of the gym. You got to be progressing. So fucking push yourself, okay? Do you want to be in that state of regret? Yes or no, okay? Do you actually want to progress? Do you want it bad enough? They're rhetorical questions you've got to ask yourself, all right? Now moving on to number 2. So diet. Once again, building up that consistency, okay? So starting off slow. If you really struggle to eat food, and if you are not a big eater at all, I wouldn't even suggest going into a calorie surplus straight away if you want to bulk and gain weight. I would suggest getting consistent at eating at your maintenance first, or even if you're really bad at eating, then you know you can start getting consistent when you're in a slight deficit, and then build up to your maintenance, and then once you got consistent with that, then you can eat in a surplus. This is, you know, when people dive straight into the deep end and don't build up their foundations, they have no layer to support them. You know, it's like, imagine this is your foundations and then this is you. If you jump straight here without building the foundations, you've got no support underneath, so you're just going to fall, right? So it's super important that you build up this consistency. And the second thing I've got is, oh yeah, that's it. Sorry, I'm just trying to read my plan. Make subtle changes, okay? You want to be making the, you know, as I said, building up the consistency and building up the foundations. You don't want to completely change your diet, you know. If you're like the first month into the gym, for example, you don't want to be, you know, making drastic changes. You don't want to be going into the deep end straight away. Just doing little things like increasing the protein or adding a protein shake into your diet every day. These little things, these little habits are going to build over time, and it's going to inevitably lead to long-term success, and you are going to master your diet, my friend. So just making these subtle changes, for example, you know, adding a protein shake or taking a packet of crisps out your diet day to day, going to make such a difference in the long term. Final thing is obviously calorie dense foods. And if you don't know what calorie dense foods are, obviously they're really good when you're bulking. This refers to portions of food that are very compact in calories, are very dense, however they don't necessarily have as much volume to them. So they're easier to eat, they have higher calories in them, so it's a win-win for us boys, okay? Now on to number 3, tracking. So you want to be logging your training sessions. I personally log my training sessions in a little book. You don't necessarily have to do that. There's loads of apps out there. You can do it in your Apple Notes or your Android notes or whatever. My mate does it in his notes. I just personally like to do it in my book. But just finding a way that you actually enjoy to log your sessions. I really enjoy to log them in my book. Okay, so that's why I do it, right? But just as I said earlier, logging your sessions is super important if you want a progressive overload. Therefore, if you want to grow and get better than last week and get better than the week before, and so on and so forth, okay? And obviously, I want you guys to carry out an experiment in terms of tracking calories, because tracking calories is super important. So if you don't track calories right now, I want you to do this experiment. So it's going to span over the course of 2 days, right? And if you're watching this in the middle of the day, then start it tomorrow, you know. So on the first day, what I want you to do is eat what you'd normally eat. However, don't track a thing. All right, don't track a single thing, just eat what you'd normally eat. All right, and then the next day, what I want you to do is eat the exact same things you ate, however, track it and see, you know, see the overestimation or the underestimation come into play. And I genuinely believe that you will be shocked. Okay, you will be shocked that you may be 1,000 calories in a deficit of your surplus, or you may be even eating too much and you don't have to eat as much as you're eating, right? So that's one experiment I would like you guys to carry out. And yeah, just tracking your calories is super important. And in terms of recovery, what I would highly suggest for you guys is one of the, you know, just 2 things. You know, the first thing is just basically making sure you're getting enough rest days in, so you're actually allowing your central nervous system, so you know your full body can recover, right? And I would highly suggest for you guys to get a 2 days minimum of rest every week. So at the most, going to the gym 5 times a week, because you're just going to burn your body out, your performance is going to go down. In that case, you're going to increase your risk of injury and all of that stuff. All right, and the second thing is just make sure you're getting enough sleep. Sleep is super important for the human body. As I literally said earlier, if we go a certain amount of time without sleeping, humans can't function properly. And in the long term, if we go like, I don't know, like 30 days without sleep, we'll probably end up dying, right? So I don't know, I hope that puts into perspective how important sleep is for human function and the brain and the body. But yeah, they're just 2 things, right? So that's basically the end of the video. Thank you very much for watching, and I genuinely hope this video has helped solve your problem or get you one step closer to your goal. If you want my help beyond these YouTube videos, then I'd absolutely love it if I can invite you guys into my very own free community. It's going to be the top link in the description, where we are helping 190 plus people just like you in your situation who want to bulk and gain muscle, to make the progress, to put on the muscle and to put on the bulk as efficiently and as effectively as possible. So if you want my help beyond these YouTube videos, if you want access to a workout program and lots more, then it's going to be the top link in the description, and that will be an absolute pleasure to be able to welcome you in there. Now, if you just want to stay on the YouTube, then that's totally fine. If you have enjoyed this video, then, you know, it genuinely mean a lot to me if you drop a like, maybe a cheeky comment, positive feedback, you know, constructive criticism about this video. Everything will go a long way so I can make these videos better for you guys. And most importantly, if you want to stay around and learn more from me so I can help you make more progression, which would be an absolute pleasure, then if you drop a subscription, then that would genuinely mean a lot to me. Alright, so without further ado, take care, have a good day, and I'll see you in the next video.